full parking lot out there, but there's not that many cars.
Yeah. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We recognize that we have a quorum with all members present. Approval of the regular agenda. The one correction we have to make is that the unfinished business is the new business and vice versa. So we're gonna switch 8 and 9.
Do you need a motion for that?
I did have something I would like to add. I do think it's important that we talk about chief transition, and I know that you said that the committee would be deciding that, but because it's a...
I'm sorry for cutting you off, but we
Okay.
have to work on the agenda here first.
Okay, I know, I wanted to add that to the agenda.
That would come under A.
Yeah, chief replacement and transition, because I think it's important that we use the word transition because it's a separate factor beyond just replacement. I mean, transition needs to happen much sooner than replacement does. So I do think it's something, plus there'll be some fiduciary issues that need to be addressed with that as well. So I do think it's something that until that is in place, we need to have on the agenda every single month.
It's there.
And then the other item that I would like to add in this whole way of going forward, where we have some openness and transparency, I think that we really need to have everybody involved have a voice. And I would like to see the firefighter union actually have a chance to speak.
They do.
And which line item are they listed for?
Number 6 and number 12.
Oh, so they can't have their own space, it's just public comment?
Let's get the agenda issue.
That would
Unless
be an
you're,
agenda issue.
well, if you're proposing to add it to the agenda, then you would have to make a motion to add it to the agenda.
Okay, then I make a motion that we add a firefighter's report each month, firefighter union's report each month to the agenda.
There's a motion on the floor to add that the union representative be given a specific spot on the agenda. Is there a second? Having no second, the motion dies. Approval of the regular agenda with changes. Is there a motion on the floor?
I would move to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Consent agenda. Minutes, invoices, and treasurer's reports.
John, I had a question here in the July 12th. Was that closed session? A special meeting? That's the one that Rob randomly.
It was a regular meeting, but
Some of the discussion.
we went in a closed session with the attorneys.
And then back into open session.
Okay, so there's nothing in here that is closed session.
No, that's here.
Okay.
Looking for a motion to approve the consent
Yes.
agenda. I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion to approve the consent agenda and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Public comment.
Can I go real quick? I know there's a lot of people here that probably have stuff to say, and if, with the board's permission, go beyond a time limit of 3 minutes, maybe around 5. I think it's important, it's respectful, and from the heart, and I'd like to share it with everybody here.
I'll give you 3 minutes.
Can I have beyond? See where it goes, just
See where it goes.
For anybody here that doesn't know me, my name's Scott Baser. I'm a captain at the Fire Authority. A few things I want to get out. I've been trying to think of how to put this in words for everybody. I'll start with saying in the fire service we make sacrifices from top to bottom. That includes you folks. And I want to thank you for the time and effort that you put in every month helping us out. You sacrifice your time, your family, to be here and try and resolve these issues. I want to acknowledge the firefighters that worked in this department in the past, that led the way for us. They've come and gone. They're no longer here for whatever reasons, good or bad, but we thank them. They'll always be a part of the department. And I want to thank, there's only one here today, but the guys now who are here and at home for still being here. And I'm proud of them. We've had differences of opinions and we've been at odds, and I'm proud of them and I respect them for still being here and fighting for all of us. I'm gonna walk and talk, but so everybody knows we make sacrifices, all of us, on a daily basis, especially in this line of work. Sacrifices of not being with our families, missing Christmases, holidays, vacations. And we make the sacrifices for this community, because this community is our family. And we don't turn our backs on our families. We make sacrifices for one another. We carry heavy burdens and the things that we see that cannot be erased. These are images that haunt us. They still haunt us. They'll always haunt us. And police, fire, and EMS, they all share this. I've had to have the discussion with my children, 10 and 7. There's always a risk that we take and the potential that we might not come home. No matter the size of the department, big or small, those risks are there. Whether it's a car on 94, whether it's a guy losing control of a truck, falling through a floor, we make these risks and these sacrifices for this community. And if you print nothing else in your columns, print this right now. Myself and my guys will die for each and every person in this community, including you folks, because you're a part of this community. That's a tradition that's never going anywhere. We will die. We will take every measure and every risk possible to save you when you call for us. Ian's the only one here today. I think it's important that he hears and the message goes to the rest of the guys that are still here with us. I myself will do everything in my power to save his life and anybody else's life that has this uniform on with us. I think it's important he knows, I think it's important his family knows that we have each other's backs. That's not going anywhere. When he comes to work, his family's gonna know that I and the rest of us have his back and everybody else's back. They send them to work, and they have the same risks and see the same things. It's never going anywhere. There's a dark cloud over this organization right now. And I want to go back to our families real quick.
Wrap it up in
I will.
just a minute.
As I said before, I've had the very real conversation with my children that we might not come home. And I want it to be that if that, God forbid, ever happens, it's for a good reason. But like I said, we have a dark cloud over this organization, and now more than ever we need to come together. The community, us, you guys sit down, lock the door, come up with a solution to the problems that we're facing.
Let me cut you off.
Okay, I appreciate the time, and our doors at the fire department are always open for any of you folks that wanna come in and ask us what we do, see what we do, and we can explain to you what it is that we're doing for you. We need your support. And just to wrap up, I'm standing here now telling you, I give you my 100% unwavering support and trust to help us through these times. We're looking for a new chief. We need to put this stuff behind us. All of us. There's no one's pointing fingers, nobody's at fault. We're all a team, we're all involved in this.
That's it, Scott, I gotta cut you off.
All right, thank you for the
You can
time.
have my 3 minutes if he wants, if he has more to say.
That, I appreciate it, that's okay.
Next.
I'll elaborate a little on Scott and probably add a different perspective. My name is Amanda Ballard. I live in the city of Chelsea and have lived in the city area most of my life. My father is a retired battalion chief for the City of Ann Arbor Fire Department, and my husband is Ian Ballard, a firefighter and the union president at CAFA. As a daughter of a firefighter and a wife of a firefighter, I am all too aware of the very real dangers firefighters face in their careers and also its effects on their families. When my husband leaves for duty, I am aware of these inherent dangers he may face and the awful things he might see that most of us thankfully never will. This is the sacrifice he makes and we make as his loved ones to protect this community. In the winter of 2006, the reality of these dangers became very real for us in the fire service community when Ann Arbor firefighter Amy Schnurley was struck and killed by a motorist while responding to an accident on I-94. I know when the weather is bad that my husband can respond to many accidents on I-94, often all night long, during his 24-hour shift. Here at CAFA, our firefighters have endured endless conflict during the time James Payer has held the position of fire chief. I am aware of too many situations to count where our firefighters have been treated with disrespect, inconsistent policies, and outright harassment. The environment that has been created has left our firefighters overwhelmed with stress, impacting their ability to focus on the critical nature of the job they face, and of course has caused undue tensions in their families. I have listened to other firefighters' wives who share the same sadness and overwhelming frustration as their husbands also struggle with the toxic environment at CAFA. Our firefighters have been called liars and cowards, have been spoken to with profane, belittling language. They have been called lazy for voicing concerns and have been threatened with layoffs for pursuing grievances. It is almost unbelievable if I didn't have first-hand knowledge or witness testimony from multiple sources. We have been told as a community that the high turnover rate that CAFA has seen for the past decade is due to low wages. Though low wages have been a factor, it is a misrepresentation not to acknowledge the gross mismanagement, lack of respect, and harassment our firefighters have faced from CAFA's management. This comes not from 1 or 2 or 3 firefighters, but a majority of them. I have spoken to numerous full-time and paid on-call firefighters that had enough of the broad dysfunction CAFA has seen for the past decade and left due to management. If you continue to deny this, then you are not listening. We have also been told as a community that many of CAFA's budget issues have resulted from the union negotiating higher wages for our firefighters. I think this neglects the reality that our firefighters received the lowest wages in the county before the union contract was negotiated and still remain below the median wage. In sharp contrast to our current fire chief, who is receiving one of the highest wages of any fire chief in the county for departments of comparable size. Blaming the budget issues on higher wages also neglects to acknowledge the exponentially growing legal costs CAFA has incurred due to the inappropriate conduct of management and contract violations. Too often the facts have been buried and misrepresented instead of dealing with management problems directly. Lying to the police and malicious destruction of property while on duty is illegal and conduct unbecoming of a fire chief. Ordering a firefighter to file a false bullying complaint against another firefighter is unconscionable. Telling your firefighters they will all lose their jobs and be vetted against each other if CAFA merges with Dexter's Fire Authority, which sadly follows the same fear-mongering tactics firefighters have endured for years, is absolutely unacceptable. Knowing this and allowing it to continue is equally as unacceptable. If you continue to deny these facts, then you are not listening. At the board meeting last month, we were told, in spite of all the problems, all the headaches, all the rumors, all the accusations, you dial 911 and somebody is going to show up. Rest assured, that's going to happen and that's what counts. I disagree. If the fire truck shows up and there aren't enough firefighters to safely use their equipment or enough of them to safely enter a burning building, then our community will face undue tragedy. This is the reality, no matter how one tries to circumvent the facts. Our firefighters deserve to work in a professional, respectful, and collaborative environment where management understands and follows the contract they have negotiated with the union. Our community deserves the emergency services they are paying. Our community deserves the emergency services they are paying for when they entrusted their tax dollars in CAFA, when its board members solicited the renewed 1.8 mils millage in 2011. Excuse me. Our community deserves honest and straightforward answers to their concerns for the serious issues we are facing at CAFA. This can only happen when there is full accountability for these problems and transparency with the citizens of this community. I have been asked why my husband has not looked for another firefighting position at a different department where there is not a hostile work environment. The answer is simple. Like all of us here today, our family lives in this community too. And we understand the serious dangers we will face in a fire or medical emergency due to the current reduction in services. And if no one speaks out against the serious problems that have been created at CAFA, then we all lose. Our firefighters deserve better than the toxic environment they have endured for years at CAFA. They already deal with enough stress and trauma while they protect our community. Adding disrespect and harassment from management should be unacceptable to anyone who takes the time to honestly look at the facts.
Amanda, I have to cut you off.
She
You
has
have
to be
7
there first.
minutes.
Can she have mine?
And our community deserves better than the reduction in
Amanda, I have to cut you off. It's Robert's Rules of Orders, and we have
All
to
right.
follow the rules of order.
All right, I'll finish at the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andy.
Next, someone would like to make a comment?
Amanda, you want me to read the rest of it? Okay. I'm Carla Cobb. My husband is an ex-firefighter. I'm going to finish Amanda's letter. And our community deserves better than the reduction in emergency services we are currently facing. I believe this board has received feedback from a number of concerned citizens who are aware of the problems we are facing at CAFA. More and more citizens are discussing these problems and how it can affect them. This board's failure to address problems with management is only leading to greater distrust from our community in our ability to manage our tax dollars. Continued inaction and turning a blind eye has for too long been the status quo. If your goal is to restore emergency services and regain this community's trust in your ability to manage our tax dollars, then I encourage you to deal directly with your current management problems and look for qualities in the next fire chief to both restore a healthy working environment for our firefighters and fix the budget issues that have been accumulating for years before our firefighters were compelled to unionize.
Thank you. Scott?
I attended last month's meeting and was witness to something I found very disappointing. I was motivated to speak, but the old adage about letting your thoughts settle for a day before you speak out won the moment. It was disappointing to hear the chair address excessive amounts of legal fees with a sort of accusatory tone towards the firefighters that filed those charges, while only moments earlier the chair called Augustine Sorovi, a 10-year officer, a coward, and inferred that he was a liar. I was disappointed because the chair said nothing about the cause of those lawsuits, or the cause for Captain Sorovi leaving in his letter that was read to the meeting. In a department that he loved, the cause was sitting 10 feet away. We know who lied to the press and to the detective. We know who lied about vandalizing equipment that was meant for others' private property. We know who told the staff they would all be fired and have to reapply for their own job. We know a lot. And yet the chair has allowed his friend to stay, be paid, and even now has allowed the cause to retire peacefully. The cause has chased away more good, able-bodied firefighters that our tax dollars paid to train. away from this district than any one thing, while singing the praises of the cause for the past 6 months, hiding every kernel of truth from both the board and the people. I'm asking this board to finalize its agreement with the cause and let him retire immediately with his PTO and be gone. Let this department mend without his hands stirring up more problems, causing more issues, and more people to leave.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address? Having no others, we'll move on to the chief's report.
I think you have one over here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have something to say, but it doesn't really relate to this.
You can speak about anything you wish.
All right. My name is Dan Wheeler. I live over on 11499 South Church. I've never had any complaints with the Chelsea Fire Department. Actually, Monday afternoon, I popped my hip out, and they were there within a few minutes, and were a great help, and I appreciate it. But what actually I'm here for is I would like to throw my head into the ring of picking a new chief. I saw in the paper that you were looking for some people from outside, for opinions from outside people. And that's what I'd like to do. I have paper if I'm giving it. Sure, you don't have to read it now, you can read it later, it doesn't matter. But I didn't know if now was the proper time to give it to you. But that's where I'm at. But as far as it is, it's on special arms, it's decent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But it's a little better. Yeah, a little better than the other night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, I will move on. Chief's report.
I don't have anything to add. It's in the report, so.
Okay.
On to the new business, it's
Now the-
unfinished business.
Now the new business that's number 9, which is technically unfinished business. Chief Replacement Committee. Peter, do you have anything?
Our first meeting for the chief replacement committee is tomorrow night. It's going to be at my house. We'll probably try to have following meetings at a public location, make them open. The point of the first meeting is really to kind of set our way. We've got a number of people have been nominated by their respective entities to participate in the committee. At least my experience, what I'm trying to model this after was the library board did a very, very good job of having a small core committee and laying out a process, and then allowing a lot of community involvement once they had selected a handful, 3 in their case, nominees, qualified nominees. And then getting a lot of interaction between the prospective heads of the library and the community, all the real stakeholders in the whole community. I don't know we'll exactly follow their playbook to the letter, but they did lay out what I thought was an outstanding search. Bill Harmer was a fantastic director of the library. I mean, a beloved guy. And so when he decided he was going to leave, we thought, how are we ever going to replace Bill Harmer? And they conducted such a great search that, no disrespect to Bill, I think we may have a better head of the library than Bill Harmer. So my hope is to, there's aspects of this process that'll be strictly related to fire authorities. And then there's aspects of this process, probably the majority of it really, that are related to being a community and picking leaders. The head of the firefighters is an extraordinarily important job in the community. There's probably only 2 jobs on par or more significant. And so we're gonna take it really seriously, and we're gonna, we have 2 issues. One you brought up, Shauna. When we have this transition period, how do you operate a fire department in the midst of a transition? It's a real significant operational problem. And don't think for a second that it's it's not being addressed. It just may not be addressed perfectly or to everybody's liking. But the job at hand is to begin a selection process in a time-sensitive way without hurrying, which is a fine line. And it starts tomorrow night.
Peter, if I could, Lima Town Hall is rarely used, so if
Fantastic.
folks would like to use our facilities, you're more than welcome.
Thank you very much. That'd be, it may make sense for us actually to rotate it around, but a lot of the process I'm leaving to the committee. I'm not scripting this whole thing. So people are gonna have a lot of input. People have had a lot of opinions about all of this for a long time, and it's time for us to start pulling on the rope, so I'm looking forward to it.
Is there any other questions for Peter?
We do actually, excuse me for just barking.
Bark away.
Thank you. We do need to address a little bit discussion on transition. I think that's part of we changed the agenda to replacement and transition, and so I don't know that I'm fully prepared for that to address that plan. I mean, we have it's probably fair to say that the chief does have some paid time off. We have had discussions about how to function in the short term. We have had discussions about hiring an interim chief, and there still is progress to make on those different things. We haven't nailed down a specific timeline with Chief Pear. He's been gracious enough to help us begin walking through the budget process, which is an important process. If we began that process without his help right now, it would take us longer. So I think there's probably cause for some patience, and really we're at a point where we have to make an operational assessment of how well can we conduct ourselves as a firefighting entity over the next 90 to 120 days, probably the next 30 days. It'd be fair, very fair to address this board, its chair and me as the head of the replacement committee on what that transition plan is. It may not be an entirely complete plan in 30 days, but it'll certainly be a lot more formulated than it is right now.
Shauna?
Yeah, I do have a question. Do you feel that this committee was, number one, put in place to deal with both of those? Or do you feel that it's going to be a lot for the committee to handle both going on at the same time? It just seems to me that looking for a chief is going to take a lot of effort in itself, and as is the transition. I mean, I don't doubt the capabilities, but I'm just thinking about the time and the number of meetings needed and all of the information that has to be gathered by the committee to make both happen.
Fair enough. I think that the committee was formed to pick a new chief.
Right.
This board, you, me,
Right, everybody,
we
yeah.
have a responsibility to come up with a transition plan.
Right. And I would strongly agree with that it be a board decision to work towards that.
Well, I think all of this is gonna be a board decision. It's the legwork and the research that
Right.
committee works out.
I mean, to Tom's credit, our chair, excuse me, he's been putting a lot of time and effort on a daily basis on that. So.
Well, and I'll be happy to help you with the transition time. So you let me know when we can meet, and I'll be happy to help do some fact finding and help with that process.
Any other questions for Peter or comments? Okay, moving on to item B, legal issues pending. The only change is the Clink hearing, ULP charge has been postponed indefinitely pending a settlement. only issue that's changed. Item C, I asked everybody to think about a FOIA policy. We've had an awful lot of requests for information. That takes up a lot of my time, and some are FOIA requests, some are just open requests. But I think it's time that CAFA adopt a FOIA policy. I know the townships, I believe all the townships have their own policy in place. Is there someone that would like to come up with a policy by next month? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Shauna?
Well, would it be possible to talk with one of the entities and see if we could use theirs? I mean, I included Linden Township this month. I know that that's available online, and there's much more to it than just this. I have looked at Sylvan Township, and I have looked at the cities. They're all pretty comprehensive. I had a harder time finding Lima's. I know you had presented, a page or two last month. I wasn't sure if there was more to it than that. So, okay.
Everyone should have a copy of.
Right. I know with the other three entities, there are documents that talk about cost and, your fees for copying and different things like that. So, I'd be willing to take that on as well. And, working maybe, Craig, I don't know if you would like to work with me on that and see if we could come up with something by next month.
Actually, my assessor, who was in on Wednesdays, is
Okay.
who assisted in designing ours.
Okay.
I will see him tomorrow, and I can ask him where he drew that from, because
Okay.
he deals with a multitude of other municipalities in his business.
Well, I can certainly
So-
talk with him, and our supervisor's here today, so I can talk with Mark as well, and come and bring something next month and get it to everybody ahead of time, so they'll have a chance to look it over and maybe go from there. How's that?
As we, excuse me a moment, as we saw with our cost recovery documents for CAFA, predominantly everybody had one, but they were a little bit different.
Right.
And now we've done the same thing. Virtually everybody has a FOIA policy, but they're all a little bit different. So trying to pick the best of the bunch or conglomerate the bunch or whatever, I guess is what the task becomes.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be happy with any policy that the board agrees on that has our letterhead. That's, like I said, I don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Let's steal the wheel instead.
There you go. All right. So noted.
Okay, thank you, Shauna. Meeting dates and times, you're working on that?
I am, and I think I have something from everybody. I'm gonna get with Craig after the meeting and go over some of his evenings that aren't available. So hopefully I can come up with a venue this month and bring that back to the board next month with some suggestions.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to what is
Back up to number 8.
Number 8, testing for full-time firefighters position. Chief, you want to explain what happened, or you want me to, or?
Go for it. It can be your call.
Correct me if I misspeak.
Will do.
We posted for full-time firefighter position.
Correct.
And we were ready to test to fill that position. And it was objected to that there should be a 60-day study period provided.
As we did for lieutenants and captains.
Yeah,
This is an entry
like we do
level
for
firefighter.
lieutenants and captains. The testing company had never heard of anything. They said it's basically an aptitude test,
Right, common, general knowledge.
not really something you study for. There's nothing in the contract that says we have to wait 60 days. So, in talking with the chief, we would like to maybe move it up and test sooner, which would put more people on the street sooner, which I think is a good thing. Rather than wait till October-ish.
Question.
Peter?
So, who requested that we wait 60 days for the entry level
I
firefighters?
believe it was the union requested.
Okay, and the basis of their request was?
That it's done that way on other testing for like captain and lieutenants.
And, wow, and people are concerned that we don't have enough firefighters?
Yes,
Right.
Seems to be a conflict.
yes. That's why it's before the board.
Right now, the written test is scheduled for September 5th.
Shauna?
Was there a discussion about this with the union prior to this being scheduled? And I've been told that this was scheduled on very short notice, like July 5th, which typically is a vacation period for a lot of people. So I, in my opinion, a lot of these things could have been avoided if there had been some prior discussion with the union. We do have a union and we need to work with them. So I'm just wondering, we've known for several months that we've got firefighters that were leaving and have left. And so where was the discussion in all of this for everybody to try and get along and work it out?
Follow the contract. And any other entity that you go to, they set a test date and you're either there or you're not. So, the issue for the board is whether they wanna wait till September 5th, which is the 60-day timeframe. The agency, the third-party agency that we're using for testing is saying that, in the contract doesn't say it requires to put 60 days. For the lieutenants and captains, MCOLS uses a 60-day study period. There's a series of study guides that they provide to the applicants. They get a 60-day study period to prepare for the written test. For entry level, the testing facility or the company said nobody provides. He said we can provide a general knowledge study guide if you want, but most places it's, you come in, it's a general knowledge test that either you know the information or you don't. So I believe what the board chair is asking is whether the board wants to just, wait, because more than likely if we change the testing date outside the 60-day study period as been done in the past, you're gonna get a grievance. It's gonna be grieved more than likely. And if you don't change the date, then you're setting precedents for future testing, so.
Questions?
Yeah.
Now, in the contract, under management's rights, it says that we have control over hiring. So, that's about the only one line in the contract that addresses this issue, but there's no particulars or timetables. Peter?
Well, I would just thinking for the union, I mean, how big of a deal is this for you guys at this point?
May I address the issue?
Certainly.
I'll weigh in a little bit. Just so we're all on the same page and we don't run into any issues. Management does have a right in the contract under hiring. This is actually a promotion. These individuals are already hired by CAFA. They're being promoted from paid on call to full-time. That's clearly defined within the contract. Past practice and precedence has already been set in the promotional process by giving a 60-day study period and a bibliography to study. The company that we use is called IMCO, not IMCOLS. IMCOLS is the Michigan Commission of Law Enforcement or something. IMCO is a private contractor that we use to do the testing. They actually had 2 separate tests that management could pick from. Management never approached the union about a discussion over the testing. The test that was picked was the cognitive thought test, reading, writing, arithmetic, which is great for hiring guys off the street that haven't been through the fire academy, that have no training and no fire knowledge. The second test management could have picked is an entry-level exam that tests their Fire 1 and Fire 2 skills, which is actually, in the company's own words, designed for smaller departments to test their fire skills, like CAFA. Had we been approached, we could have had that discussion, and that test does have a study period that goes along with it. Our personal opinion is that test is probably more appropriate for what we're doing here. The guys all have been through our fire academy. We've paid for it, and they've been employees for, I think, 2+ years. One of them has been an employee for a lot longer than that. He worked for us previously. So that's kind of where things stand right now. If there's any other questions, let me know, and I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks, Ian. Well, the question before the board is, do we wish to move forward with hiring a firefighter testing now, or do we want to wait 60 days? Well,
September.
September.
Yeah, close.
Shauna?
How long will it take to get the results back?
Week, 10 days.
Okay.
And then you have chief interview and board interview that goes along with that.
So we've got, sorry.
We had posed a question. And Ian, if perhaps you can answer this to assist me with this. I understand that the second test would be a little more in depth, but what would be considered a reasonable time frame to study for that? I mean, 60 days? If you started studying now, you can read a room full of books in 60 days. That seems like an extreme amount of time for what we're looking at here. My bottom line question being, would it be feasible to shorten that time period? All right, we're nearly at the end of July. Perhaps say the first week in August, we would test for this position, and that would give them still another 2 weeks or better to brush up on whatever they felt to. They're already working in this position. They're familiar with this position. They should know what's going to be on that exam, I would think. It doesn't take you 60 days to remember what I did yesterday, if you will.
Peter?
Okay, another question for Ian. We're kind of in a little, this is a big time dilemma. This is not like letter of the law dilemma, this is lives dilemma.
Right.
So we're in a position of having to make a choice between 2 negatives, potential negatives. One going against precedent, and perhaps wisdom regarding the test, and the other being short firefighter for 45 to 60 days. I thought there was a lot of wisdom in what you had to say, but I don't think there's a lot of wisdom in going extra days without a badly needed firefighter.
Correct, I agree. And if that's something that the board wishes, then there's always an avenue of a letter of understanding. If we want to acknowledge that precedence is set, and this is what we typically do, but because of the time and the constraints that we're in, we want a letter of understanding to change something, then we're open to that. We're always open to that. But it needs to be a discussion that's had with us so that we can sit down and go, how do we come to an agreement, not just, we're gonna do this.
Okay.
So.
Right. So you're good with that? Right. I just didn't want to be in a position of, furthering an already strained relationship or endangering the community.
Agreed.
So do we need a motion or like?
Just out of curiosity, if we're concerned about precedents, what have we done in the past?
We have not, this is
Never
the
hired
first
a
time.
firefighter?
Not off of this contract, no.
No, I mean in the past. What did we do 6 years ago?
We
How
do,
we
outside-
hire entry-level people?
We do outside interviews with,
I mean, do you have a 60-day waiting period?
no.
So what changed? Why aren't we using precedents?
We have a written component to this portion, that's why.
Well, the premise that in on-call and employees, the same, that they're somewhat
That they're in the same,
treated in the contract, you're gonna have to ask Mike Blum that question. You can't just run with that assumption. That when we laid off a firefighter, they didn't go into the on-call group,
right.
right? So there is a legal difference between an employee and there is some difference there.
They're both employees though. There's just a different.
What they're saying is, and it's clear in contract that going from paid on call to full-time firefighters is a promotion. The issue is the 60-day window. The contract doesn't say that there is. The union's position is, well, because we've done this for lieutenants and captains as a part of a promotional process, then what they're saying is consistency with the same as you did with captains and lieutenants. And, the question is, MCOL's the same. Well, for this particular test, there is no time frame. So the dilemma is whether we just
But if you're
write it out.
going from firefighter to lieutenant, it's not gonna be a math test.
No.
If this is an entry-level position and you're just looking for some basic skills, why on earth would you tie yourself up and create a problem for yourself by saying you have to wait 60 days and you've never done it in the history of CAFA? There's my.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, and Kurt, I think the difference is now that the history is now changing because we do have a union contract in place.
This is not contractual.
We just heard that it is, so.
Well, you didn't hear it from Mike Blum. You need to talk to Mike Blum and ask him that question. I don't know.
Okay,
I can't
Okay.
say yay or nay.
I
I know
do.
there was a difference when we laid off a firefighter that we didn't put him into the on-call group, which to me seems very odd.
it did to me too,
Why
and
would
I
you take
questioned
a
that.
trained firefighter and
Right.
not even have him be eligible for on-call? But there's probably labor laws that deal with that, and that's why we have legal counsel to answer those types of questions.
Mhm. But if we bring legal counsel in on this, we're looking at more legal expenses, we're already way over budget. It seems to me that in the spirit of trying to work together, that a simple conversation may have canceled all of this. I mean, it may have been a simple matter of the chief contacting Ian and talking about it, and then bringing it to the board at that point, so that we can make a decision as the chief's employer, and as actually the employer of the firefighters as well. So one of the things that I would like to stress is that we need to have, which is why I was trying to let the firefighters have a voice earlier, so that we can hear from everybody and preempt a lot of this happening.
Okay.
My suggestion at this point would be that we have a conversation, that the chief and Tom, I'll even volunteer to do that as well as Ian, and we sit down and talk about this today if there's time, and see if we can work this out, because I agree with Peter that this is a matter of public safety. I am concerned about how few firefighters we have, but rather than opening ourselves up to more legal expenses, let's sit down and have a conversation about it.
Well, unless I'm mistaken, that's exactly what happened. The chief had a conversation with Ian, and Ian expressed that he wanted to wait the 60 days,
Yes.
like we do with the other issue, with the other promotions. And the chief agreed to it.
That's right.
So that, what you wanted to happen,
Okay.
did happen.
And the chief agreed
Absolutely.
to it,
That's why we're
so,
waiting until September.
And the chief agreed to it.
so,
I brought up the fact that I felt the board should be made aware of it in all openness and fairness, that everybody should be made aware of.
yes,
We have citizens here screaming, we want more firefighters,
Right.
why aren't we getting them?
right.
I get emails every day asking me that question.
And my suggestion
Here
is still.
here is what the current holdup is. How do you wanna handle it? And I believe it's a decision that the board is gonna have to make. The board can say, let's wait, or the board can say, let's move forward and get a TA with the union.
A TA being a,
Temporary agreement with
okay.
the union.
Well, then I make a motion that we proceed with a conversation to means of a temporary agreement with the union consisting of the chief, yourself, I'm willing to volunteer unless somebody else wants to do that, and Ian, and see if we can move forward with this.
We have a motion on the floor to,
I'll second that.
second by Peter. A motion on the floor to sit down and talk with the union about shortening the waiting period for new hires. Full-time firefighter position, I should say. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, got a discussion.
I want to move to amend the motion. That we actually, rather than moving to talk about it, that we move to have a temporary agreement. That be specific to this occurrence, and that we do it at once.
I've got something worked up in my mind, if you'd hear me out here. If Shauna, I don't mean to put words in your mouth here, but the motion could read, motion to enter into discussion with the union, develop letter of understanding, upon agreement or upon receipt of letter of understanding, immediately schedule testing for full-time firefighter position.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion, and do you want to make the motion then, Craig?
Then I will make that motion. Pending receipt of letter of understanding from the union on testing availability date. Immediately schedule testing to hire, test and hire full-time firefighter.
And I'll second that.
And you'll second that. Now, do you want this brought back to a full board, or do you want to delegate that authority.
I would delegate that authority to the chair.
Any objections to that?
I would like to be part of that.
My theory being on this, Tom, is with any kind of due process here, that letter of understanding should be able to be done within a couple, 3 days, in theory.
Correct.
Schedule a date very soon after that for the testing, depending on what the agreement is with the union. And then at that point, the latest we would have to wait would be until our next board meeting to officially hire the firefighter. Is kind of the time frame
We can work it
I'm
that
looking at.
fast.
And that is kind of a hurry up process at the speed of government, but I think we can make it happen.
Point well taken.
Motion on the floor.
And we had a second.
We have a second?
Second by
You
Shauna.
seconded, right? Yeah.
Shauna did.
John, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. See me after the meeting. Along with everybody else. Item B, the website. Our website is pretty much defunct. It hasn't been updated or maintained. It was designed by someone who's no longer here, and people have looked at it and basically come away confused. I think it would be very beneficial to have a up and running, maintained website so that we can disseminate information to the public more efficiently. Our IT people to design, build, whatever you do to get them up and running is $1,800. And then your annual cost I believe was about $300-400 a year.
$199 a year. For
$199 per year.
We'll give you updates.
After
But the domain was an additional $155.
design it up right. The IT guy would be able to train a couple people to do updating and minor stuff to the website. Post pictures of the picnic, etc. But it is an unbudgeted expense. Right?
Lima Township is in the throes of going through this exact same thing. We are in the process of getting bids from different people to set up and build us a new website. And I know Lisa, Chelsea Update, has information on a very good person also. I would suggest that perhaps we look at that. And they can make them simple enough to where office staff can add, delete, update, right in-house. Yes, there is still a minimum, cost to go along with, but I think we should probably look at getting some bids in on it before we jump right in on it, yeah. Would be my suggestion.
I just want to say I concur with Craig. I do think we need to see more than one bid. We actually have a couple of really good resources right here in Chelsea, and I'm a big proponent of going local if you can do that, because then we're spending our dollars back in our community. So, yeah. Craig, since you seem to have some knowledge of this, I mean, would it be something that you maybe could seek out as a couple more
Certainly,
bids?
I can provide the people that we are receiving bids from. And Lisa, if you would, I know at my office, I've got the information for your person, but.
It's Leslie Sorrell, she's walked to her house.
Okay. I know I've got that, but we'll.
And it's a WordPress platform that anybody can use. Very easy.
Can Buzz use it?
Absolutely, he's
If-
learning. He's
If
doing
Buzz
pretty
can
well.
use it, we're all over that.
Use it, then we might get by.
Okay.
If we're running a budget deficit, I think it behooves us to use the time. I mean, the budget process for next year is gonna begin in the next 30 days or so. That provides us time to get bids, line up resources, hopefully build it into a balanced budget for early 2017. That makes sense.
It does.
We can get 3 bids that would either A, motivate us to move on it now, or include it in next year's budget. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, getting the bids doesn't commit us to action necessarily.
No.
What's the current website cost us?
What's the current website cost us?
I'm not certain, I'd have to look that up, the fee that we get annually, I think, in the beginning of the year, like we just automatically charge to our credit card. And I think that we pay around $60 a year or something like that for it. And our email is tied to it, but unfortunately, as you know, I've told you that our email is not reliable. Even when Augustine was here doing it, he was pretty upset with the service that he had called and they didn't return his call for 2 days. And when it went down, and we weren't getting our emails and we didn't know it. So you get what you pay for, is what
Well, that's true too.
Yeah.
the service.
It was locked out of mine for 3 weeks
Mhm.
by the time they got it fixed.
So who maintains the current site? Who's responsible for?
No one right now.
Augustine.
He did, but there's no one right now.
Kim, do you know, do we own our domain? The
It's
website domain?
I think that's the part of the annual fee.
Okay,
He's not able to purchase and bring it straight out.
thank you.
So who would maintain the new website? Who would be responsible for that?
Well, may I answer?
Mm-hmm.
What little bit of research we've done on this so far, it's a tiered system, whoever you decide to go with. If all you want them to do is set it up for you and obtain a domain, there's one fee. And then you maintain it yourself. Or if you wish to have their assistance to update as you go, then there's an additional fee on top of that. So you can tier it depending on your internal capabilities, I guess is what I'm saying. If you've got somebody that can update, my clerk is very adamant that she wants to be able to update and put our township minutes and everything in right now after after things are done. So she wants to be able to do that herself. So that's obviously cheaper than having somebody else do it for you. If that answers your question.
So I would say the chief should be, chief's responsibility, not firefighters. One person should update the site. Put it in the job description for the new chief. You must be able to maintain a website. Otherwise, you're paying a lot of money for a website that's not being maintained, and that's just a waste of money.
Or a variety of ways you could work it, actually, you know. I don't know that it really falls within the parameters of a chief to spend your highest dollar guy on the team updating a website.
Chief, could we captain?
I would think if it's something like a captain, then it should be contractual. That's part of it.
Well, it is.
You should have somebody on staff that's capable of doing that. And be it the chief, be it the captain, lieutenant, be it Kim, whomever. You know, honestly, I would almost think it should come down to the administrative level for updating the minutes and things of that nature, and putting the agenda on and so on and so forth. I would consider it more of a administrative task than a firefighter's task personally, but.
All right. We'll work on getting bids.
I just have a comment on that with the administrative staff. We are already at 100% of the budget already this year for the administrative staff. So the concern is adding even more to her plate at this point. I don't think we want to do that because we are so over budget as it is. And I think we've got time, as Peter said, so we can figure that out at the time we actually go through with the contract.
I guess my comment was designed to be not financial there, Shauna, but that it was more of an administrative position.
Correct.
To do that.
Right.
Than a firefighter's or a fire chief's position.
Okay.
Okay. We'll work on it. That's the last new business.
I've got a couple.
Donna?
Yeah. One of the questions I had, and this would probably be for the chief, given that we're in Linden Township, what has been done to make sure that we're gonna be able to get the fire trucks through the Werkner Road M52 construction area there? Because, I mean, that really backs up quite significantly at times. And there's really no shoulder to get the cars off the road. So that's a huge impact. I mean, have you talked with MDOT or?
Been in contact with city, Christine, and working with the county. Christine is probably one of the best resources to keep us updated on what's our access and what's going on.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that, well, you may not know, so Christine would be the person that's in charge of that then?
Christine is, all the information, a lot of the information from the county gets funneled into her, and then she shares the information. She kind of disseminates it to.
Okay, but that's an MDOT route, so MDOT would be involved.
MDOT, I mean, she's the one that, she's been very good about passing on information about updates about construction, so.
Okay.
She's just been a great resource.
Okay. So if she's passing, sorry, Peter, if she's passing out the information, has it been disseminated to the fire station then, so?
As we get it.
Okay.
And it varies from day to day.
Mm-hmm.
Peter?
So how do we get a truck north?
Very carefully.
I mean, is there like prescribed route or?
We're just like everybody else. I mean, as far as some of the roads that are shut down, we have to use the alternate routes. Otherwise, like going downtown Chelsea. I mean, we do the best as safely as possible to navigate through the traffic, so.
Can I comment? sorry to interrupt. I've actually had to do this probably about 10 or 12 times over the last couple of weeks since I started this, and it hasn't been as bad as you think. The light changes for the north and southbound traffic, and the drivers have been pretty heads up on seeing us coming, where they'll stop prior to the light on the other side. There is a delay in certain parts of Linden Township because, as you said, we gotta take Waterloo Road if Workner shut down. So there is, if I had to guess, probably about a 2-minute delay zipping around. It's one of those things we're making it work, but people have been pretty respectful of stopping prior to get us through there. But you're right, it's one lane, there's no shoulder, it's, you know, they quickly come through and get out of the way.
Construction crews are pretty good too when they're there, as far as helping, just getting through there.
Shauna?
Great, thanks. I mean, that was helpful.
And also to add to that, that's an area.
Scott,
I'm sorry,
Really
sorry,
have
I'm
to-
just trying to help you out, I'm sorry.
wait for public comment.
I did have one other thing. As I just noted, the administrative assistant is at 100% basically of the budget for the year. So one of the things that I wanted to offer to do was to pick up, oops, is that a sign? I wanted to offer to pick up putting together the board packets. And my suggestion would be everything comes to her via email for the most part anyways. So it could be sent to me, I could send it out via email and then have paper copies available for those that want them here, which I'm guessing most everybody would. I think that would free her up on a lot of time. It would save her trying to navigate to everybody's home to get them out. I just think we could maybe use that time in a better way. Also, there's been public comment that they have not been able to get a hold of anybody at the fire department. So, you know, I would like to suggest that we look at instituting regular office hours because every one of the entities here has regular office hours. Chelsea's open pretty much 9 to 5 all week long, but even Sylvan, Lima, and Linden have regular hours. And that's something I think should be posted on our website when we get that going, but as well as on voicemail so that people will know when they can call. I know that somebody mentioned they've tried several times and haven't been able to get through. Somebody mentioned to me the other day they had tried to call the chief to leave a voicemail, and the voicemail there was full. So I think it's a frustration that is coming up. And so what are your thoughts on setting some regular office hours where somebody would be available to answer the phone, as happens in most businesses?
I'm all in favor.
Okay. Any discussion on specific days? I know midweek seems to be the best. Linden is Tuesday and Thursday. Chelsea's obviously Monday through Friday. I think Sylvan is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I wrote it down someplace. Sylvan was Monday through Thursday, and then Lima was Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So given that it's only 10 hours a week, it might be more practical, and that might be a question for you to have 5 hours on 2 different days so that, you know, you're not needing to come in for several days a week.
We can work on that.
Okay. Hopefully that's something we can do soon.
Do you have come up with any ideas later on? Just fire me an email.
I would recommend discussing with Kim and the chief and see what fits, because Kim's got a good idea of when the bills come in, when Judy's gonna be there, when checks need to be processed, so on and so forth. So, and I could well establish the dates by default, if
absolutely.
you
They
will.
just need to be regular, consistent dates and times, and given that it's only 10 hours a week, and I think we absolutely have to hold to that, given that how far over the budget we are.
Okay, reports. Vice Chairman,
Nothing.
Mr. Secretary, Mr. Treasurer.
Looking at the profit and loss budget versus actual, there's so many inconsistencies in here. This thing's just horrible. Just going through here, uniform allowance, look on page 1, 3-702, 18 and 19. I think there should be a dot between that. Maybe the software doesn't allow for that.
No.
So we have, where we budgeted almost $12,000 for uniform allowance, we show 0. But then when we go on page 2, there's another uniform allowance. I'm not sure why it's under this 730, uniforms and protective equipment. So we budgeted 3,000, we're almost double of that, we're over. But the other one, we're not showing anything. And then on the credit card statement, we show something for $1,000 some dollars for, $1,100 for uniforms. For Station 2, we got rent for Station 2. We show 0 year to date, but we're budgeted 18,000. But then you got to come down to another 5 lines down. Then you see rental Lyon Township substation, and we show that we're at 9,000 year to date, but we budgeted 0 for it. This thing's just it's a mess. How do we go about cleaning this thing up so that, how do we even know we're over budget or under budget? It's just so bad. I don't know what to do with it. So that's all I have for the treasurer's report.
That's enough.
That's enough.
Peter?
Met yesterday with not only the auditor for CAFA, but with the chief and the chair and with Kim, just to get a handle on the budget process. And I thought it might present us with an opportunity when setting the next budget up for the treasurer to get involved and really to kind of do what you suggest, to kind of clean it up and set the boundaries from day one.
You would probably want to include Judy in that.
Sounds like that would be a great, she handles the payroll.
She does all
She's
this.
the bookkeeper.
Yeah, she does all this.
Yeah, we could start there. And one of the other things we discussed was modifications to this budget report so that you could actually track budget year to date against expenditures year to date, so people wouldn't have to do arithmetic gymnastics on interpolation every month with a report that I'm fairly facile with mathematics, but that's not the way you want to do it. I think we can come up with a simpler way to present the report.
Shauna?
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of reiterate that I felt Kurt needed to be involved in that whole process as well, because I also noted that for mandatory overtime, there was a 0 in that, and I know that they've been working mandatory overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult to budget when you don't have things in the right place.
Shauna, do you have anything else?
At this point, I really do think that we need to have everybody involved, so I'd like to see if Ian had anything else that he wanted to share, because sometimes, and you and I actually talked about this a little bit the other day, that we don't hear the good things necessarily that the firefighters do, so I would kind of like to hear, what's been going on with the firefighters. Have they done any volunteer work? Because they often do that, and have they rescued somebody in a house? I mean, we really need to know that we're all in this together, and I feel strongly about that. So I'd like to ask Ian if he has anything else that he would like to
You
add at
gotta
this
wait till
point.
public comment.
Well, I'm gonna use that as part of my report. You're not gonna let me do that?
No, chair won't recognize that.
Okay.
Nothing else? Announcements.
Next meeting, August 16th, 9 o'clock right here.
Here's the good news. I won't be here.
Huh?
I'm sorry, but I have a family gathering and it's out of town and
Am I invited to go to that?
no, you have to be here.
Oh.
I thought I just dropped that on you.
Thanks.
Family first.
I agree. Next meeting being August 16th, 9 o'clock, right here.
Okay. Public comment. Scott.
I'll just be real quick. Just want to apologize for interrupting your meeting. Oftentimes when you guys are discussing stuff, we have the answer to it, so I apologize for being blurred out. Also, just wanted to clarify that the comments and views I expressed earlier are not from the union. I'm not authorized to speak on their behalf. I'm speaking on my own behalf. And with closing with that, I share that stuff and for the purpose of not for sympathy, not for thanks, but for continued support from citizens. That's all we ask for. Is we'll get through this. We're all adults here. There's nothing that can be turned around. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Scott.
I'm Tom Dembski. I'm a resident of Linden Township. I'm also the Linden Township rep on the Chief Selection Committee. So interesting to watch the board in action again. I'm going to give you some feedback right in a moment for what it's worth. Kind of disappointed to hear public comment cut off. I understand the 3-minute rule very well. I also understand that it's within the chair's authority to extend to, they weren't that far beyond. I think under the circumstances with the emotion and the problems that this board is wrestling with, it would have been very diplomatic to have allowed comments to continue for everyone. I'm also disappointed that the board chose not to address the proposal to have a firefighter's report or union report. I think that would also be a very positive thing to consider at a future meeting. It was very interesting to watch the dynamics as you worked through the issue of when we can allow the next firefighter's test. And congratulations on, I'd like to say maybe you snatched victory from the jaws of defeat several times today. I'm hopeful that there will be a agreement. I do come into retirement with many years of experience in the federal sector, labor management on both sides of the table. I can see the union's been in place here for a little over 1.5 years, and I'm still see we're very much struggling to talk to each other, and we all pay for that when those things don't happen. The fact that the chief and the local president did talk on this issue, but then the agreement really didn't serve anybody well. Okay, we'll wait 60 days. We really disagree, but we'll just let you have your way. That didn't resolve the problem. I've been down this road many times, and when contract and management's rights seem to have a friction, we really need to find a way to make it work. And on a memorandum of understanding that flexes, gets you through the moment and allows things to, I want firefighters to be hired too. I understand we need them very much so, and we need them now. And I know the union wants that, but they're not going to give up their rights. And if we're going to bring the lawyers in, Come on, folks, that's just gonna take a long time. I think the management official and the union rep do have the authority and ability to work things out, and I encourage them to do that. So thank you very much for getting that resolved. I'm looking forward to seeing what that happens, and I'm looking forward to actually trying to be part of the solution to some of the problems we've got here on the chief committee. So thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Suzanne Vandenbosch, City of Chelsea, and also on the search committee. I would just like to make 2 requests, please. Just 2. I think it would be incredibly beneficial to have your accountant create a summary that would be easy for lay people to read. Reading a well-done financial report can be a challenge for a lot of people. Reading one that's been declared a mess is going to be impossible. So I think the community, people really want to understand how the fund has been spent. And I think a summary from 2012 to present date would be hugely beneficial to present to the community. Something any layperson can read, something we could put out to the community to show this is what we did with the millage that you so generously granted us. That's my first request. And I would like to also say that I would love to hear a firefighter's report at these meetings. I think it would be fantastic to hear from them and beneficial not just to the audience members listening, but to the board as well. Thanks so much.
Ian?
No, go ahead, Ian.
Public comment.
Ian Ballard, President, local, Chelsea Fire is local. So, a quick synopsis of some things that are coming up. We just appointed Colt White to sit on the Chiefs Hiring Committee to work with Peter and Tom and Suzanne and everybody else that's on it. We're excited to have Colt on there. We think he's going to do a great job in representing us. We have elections coming up for our local in August, so you may see a change in our leadership. Just a heads up for you guys, we'll make sure you get notice. Additionally, you should be getting notice here shortly for contract negotiations, to open contract negotiations. So we'll put a formal writing, but that should be coming, and we can't start that until November, so per our contract. A couple fun things that are coming up that we'll take part in are the Kids Zone, and I think they're in the calendar. Our PR guys are staying on top of that stuff. And other than that, that's all I have right now. So, thanks.
Thank you. Shauna?
I'd like to take my board hat off for just a moment and be public. I've had people ask me why I agreed to do this. Some of you know, many of you don't. Sorry, it's still emotional for me. In February of 2005, I was on my way home from a meeting in Chelsea, and I was hit by a semi-truck with a drunk driver at M52 in Boyce Road. He was going, they estimate, somewhere in the range of 75 to 80 miles an hour. In that accident, I lost my legs. It was about 25 minutes before the ambulance arrived on scene. So a second call had gone out from the few neighbors that came out to try and keep me alive. One leg was out, thrown out in the field, and the other one was ripped up the back. I was bleeding profusely and really should have died at that accident. A call went out, and as it happens, this is so close to Stockbridge, actually closer than to Chelsea. Many of our firefighters happened to be in a class in Stockbridge that night. And they didn't give it a second thought when that call came into Stockbridge. They were in civilian clothes. They jumped in their cars and they raced to the scene. And I really thank them for that. And so I have a very soft spot in my heart for firefighters, because I really am here today because of the firefighters, because of the neighbors that came out. So I really want our firefighters to have the best that they can have. I want our police to have the best that they can have. I want our EMS to have the best that they can have, because all of our lives depend on it. And I know Tom and I had a conversation about this the other day, and you actually gave me the idea to speak up today, because you said these are the things that we don't hear. And so I decided to share something very personal. So that's why I'm here. I want this to work for everybody. I want us to work as a team, because that's what we are in this community. And we are so much better than everything that has transpired in the past. And we need to work together to move forward.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I'd like to answer.
You don't have to get up. You can sit there and just talk loud.
Well, I'd like to throw a comment on what she just said. I was killed over here on 52, just the other side of 94, 4 years ago. And one of the Chelsea fires, the night before last, was at my house when my hip popped out. But one of the doctors, when I come back around at the hospital, said, whoever laid you out and put your legs back did an excellent job. It was part of one of the things that saved me. But as far as firefighters go, they're trained for that, and I have utmost respect for that. And I shouldn't be alive either, but I am, and it's probably because of people like Scott and people that care. But anyways, my other comment was back to when this lady asked what the route was for fire trucks to go through construction. Anytime, and I did this for 20 years, anytime there's construction on any road, it doesn't matter if it's a highway, maintained by the state, it's by the county. The first people that are notified